to Raabta Conversations of Perspective. I am Sidra Iqbal. I'm the Curator of Raabta, a public diplomacy initiative by the Serena hotels. And this, of course, is our Conversation of Perspective. We've gone digital. And first of all, thank you so much for appreciating and encouraging our past conversations. We feel it's a difficult time, and we are all sort of grappling to make sense of the crisis, of the challenges that are yet to come. But more importantly, it is pivotal right now to keep ourselves focused on the opportunities that are going to come by. And for that, these conversations of perspective are indeed helping us add dimensions to our own vision. Today, we have a brilliant, a prolific speaker with us who has a stellar corporate journey. He's been a part of bringing the vibrant 4G technology to Pakistan, has served at PTCL, at Zong, and at numerous Fortune 500 companies. And today he speaks, he actually devotes a lot of his time to consulting, to motivational speaking, to column writing. We have none other than Mr. Niaz Malik with us. Assalamu alaikum, Niaz sir.
Wa alaikum salam, Sidra. Thank you so much for having me.
It is such a pleasure to have you here. You're one of the foremost business leaders, policy influencers, somebody who can help us come up with a strategy in this challenge, because humanity has not known a challenge like this before. So firstly, may I begin by asking you, how do you see us getting out of the COVID-19 challenge, and what would the business environment and the scenario at large would be like post-corona?
Thank you, Sidra. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'm looking at a transformed world, a world which will be much different than what we see now, but not drastically different. And I will be discussing that. I will be also discussing in terms of, what is required in order to get out of this situation in which we find ourselves with regards to the business challenges and also the personal challenges, and how have I coped with it, after my accident when I was paralyzed. Yes. Because to a greater extent, we see that the world has paralyzed itself, and a lot of people have a lot of fears, a lot of anxiety that resides in our mind. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, I see humanity prevailing in all aspects and winning, and it will be a win-win situation, and I will be discussing that also. So I think that overall, as human beings, as corporate leaders, we will be finding a new world. A world which will be transformed, but a world in which we will be adjusting seamlessly in order to carry on our missions.
Asab, it's very interesting that you draw this analogy, and it's a very apt one, when you say the world has literally paralyzed, and it's awfully courageous of you to sort of compare it with your own personal experience. For those of our viewers who are not aware, you were at the peak of your career, of course, going, in full throttle, in full gear. And in 2016, you were met with a near fatal accident that left you paralyzed. And, from taking this little things from granted, working towards recuperating, getting those same abilities back, simply like being able to lift your hands, being able to move around. I think it's been a tremendous journey for you. So why is it that you feel that we still have a lot of reason to believe that we'll bounce back? How are you comparing your own personal journey with the world's journey right now?
A few points. First is, after my accident, I realized that being human, everything within us, everything resides within us in order to cope with any situation that comes our way. And that's very, very important. After my accident, when I found myself totally paralyzed, unable to lift my fingers or arms, unable to move in my bed, and ability to not able to do things that I used to do, I certainly had to revisit in terms of how I will create the new capabilities, a new capacity, and new way of thinking. Right. And I think that has helped me move on. And I think that will be the first and the most important thing when we are dealing with the post-corona situation, is that we have to think very differently. And it is very important. And the other important part is that when we are thinking differently, are we disciplined enough to keep going and not lose hope? The second most important thing is when people are dealing with this complexity. People are confused. And I think it is very important that a good leader has to be very clear-headed in terms of how they will lead their teams and their organization from this particular situation. And that's where I spend a lot of my time after my paralysis, in terms of being very clear in terms of how I will get out of it from a multi-dimensional perspective. First is, how is it that I will be able to do my job? How is it that I will carry on my life? How is it that I will be able to pay the bills for my family? And how is it that I will create a new life for myself? And in this ambiguous world that I was put into, how is it that I will bring clarity? And I spent a lot of time analyzing various different facts of my life and then bridging those gaps and bringing the new capabilities to the table with the help of God, obviously, in order to create a new mission in my life. And here I am, sitting in front of you, discussing about the fascinating facts of COVID-19 and how we will get out of it. Many people lose hope. And it is very important that we as humans should understand that in the last 5 to 10,000 years, we have always prevailed. There has never been a time in history where a human has been defeated. And this is very, very important. Right. After my accident, I spent a lot of time in analyzing various different trends, reading about philosophy, reading about physics, chemistry, biochemistry, just things that I was interested in. And if you take a look at the history of humankind, the last 500 years, and if you plot it on a graph, you find that there has been major challenges along the way, epidemics that have wiped out continents. But when we take a look at the overall graph, we find a linear progressive graph upward, which has the ability, which shows us that no matter what happens, the humans has always come up on the top. If you take a look at from the 1940s to now, in terms of the epidemics that have hit the human race, we find that in every situation, we as humans have prevailed. It is this essence that has been built within our DNA. During uncertain times, stress, anxiety, fear, खौफ, हमारे ऊपर गलबा कर लेता है. And we are driven by it. But this is the time to be very certain. Yes, life will change, but not to a drastic degree, I can tell you today. My life had changed dramatically. If I can survive, certainly you can survive. This is the time to be very clear-headed in terms of what you want to be, how you want to approach the new life, what are those processes, methods, and technologies that you will be using in order to learn from this experience. How is it that you will be expanding your business and your own horizons, learning from COVID-19. COVID-19 has been a great blessing for the humanity as well, because we are stretching ourselves. We are embracing technology in new ways. We are shrinking the innovation cycle. And these are great things that are happening to us. We are realizing a new us or a new you or a new I within ourselves. It is time to celebrate, rethink, reanalyze, and ensure that we are properly equipped to deal with this change. Change से घबराना नहीं है, change से डरना नहीं है. अपनी जो alignment करनी है उस change के साथ और उस change को इस्तेमाल करते हुए आगे बढ़ना है. That's what the message is. That's how I was able to survive. I was able to overcome the fears with a greater hope and creating new opportunities by creating new capabilities within myself, using that change as an innovation engine to move forward. और ये मैं जो आपसे बात कर रहा हूँ ये कोई अफसाना नहीं है. ये मैं डेली अपनी लाइफ के अंदर इसको एग्जीक्यूट करता हूँ. Execute the new you. Believe in yourself. Find time. What makes you tick. Who you are all about. And जब वो हो आ जाएगा तो चेंज से घबराएंगे नहीं आप. चेंज को एम्ब्रेस करेंगे आप. डिसिप्लिन लोग मुझसे पूछते हैं कैसे आएगा. जब आप पैशनेट होंगे अपने ख्वाबों की ताबीर के बारे में, तो पैशन और डिसिप्लिन खुद ब खुद आ जाएगा. You will crave to go to work. You will crave to do the things that help you be you.
Very
And
true.
that's
But
why,
if you allow me to probe you a little bit about this, I mean, we have a lot of these examples, the way you're quoting it, when we zoom out, when you look at the macro picture, yes, humanity has prevailed, humanity has been resilient, we've always bounced back. But then we tend to look at humanity as this one large organism, which is working cohesively, and we are lauding these achievements. But if you look around us, we are very divided. We are very different. I mean, people in America would have a very different kind of a setup. People in Canada would perhaps have a welfare state to look after them. The Europeans are tackling this scenario very differently. South Asian countries, which already had very fragile economies, are probably going to be the worst hit ones. So, why is it that whenever we speak to people who are optimistic about the future, are just looking at humanity at the whole? What about the differences that we have amongst ourselves?
so we are talking about the differences. Obviously, each country is tackling this issue very differently. Each organization is tackling these different issue very differently. Each continent is tackling these different issues very differently. And I think this diversity is the greatest strength that we have. And it is very important that this diversity should be looked at from a very positive angle, because once we have different approaches towards solving one big major problem, we as humans will prevail. And this is the great excitement that I have, that here we are as a human being, confronted with this challenge, and each one of us in our own different capacities are dealing with this challenge differently. But at the same time, being a global world, we are integrated together in our approaches. So we are discussing this problem solving at a research level. If you talk about, various different labs, international labs, or various different international organizations that are, taking different steps in order to solve this problem. So Sidra, I don't look at this challenge, being, this diversity of understanding of the challenge from various different angles as a weakness. ये एक बहुत important और अहम चीज है कि जब हम एक बहुत बड़े चैलेंज के साथ सामना करें, तो हम अपने ताईं उसको जितना सॉल्व कर सकते हैं करें, and then there is a collective effort as a human that will bring about a major change. And that's what I'm really, really excited about.
Right. Nyasa, for the next part of my conversation, I want to draw more from your own personal experience. I want to understand, basic psychology tells us that whenever we are faced with a calamity that brings a complete halt to our lifestyle, to our way of life, the way as we knew it, in your case, this near fatal accident that left you paralyzed, there is that moment or some time of denial when you can't accept it, when you sort of reject it and you start bargaining with it, you start looking for solutions, you start fighting it. So there is that lack of acceptance. How did you deal with that? I mean, the life as you knew it had ended. How did you accept that, and how did you reinvent yourself?
Sidra, that's obviously it takes time. When I came to know about it, my life was totally eroded the way I knew it, जैसे कि आपने कहा. But human species has this amazing amount of resilience, its ability to reflect and process, this intelligence and intellect to understand the new situation. And I took about more than 6 to 7 months to really understand the new reality, to process this new reality, and to come up with a whole new framework in terms of how I deal with it. And one of the most important and exciting things which helped me move on is this ability to explore my inner world. Being part of the corporate world where, things were very hectic and I was involved in 110 different initiatives. Obviously, I had a great life, but I did not find a valuable time to explore my inner strengths, the real essence of my existence. What is it that makes me tick? And, the ability to indulge deep dive into my own self in order to understand what is it that I'm all about. And I think that processing ability provided me with the strength to move on. और एक जो चीज मैं कहूंगा इसमें कि इस पूरे प्रोसेस में अगर आपको कोविड-19 के प्रोसेस में ये जो आपको टाइम मिला है, working from home, obviously, if you used to commute, you are probably have an hour and a half that you on average people are saving. तो आप ये टाइम अपने साथ बिताने की कोशिश करें और अपने आप को समझने की कोशिश करें कि वो क्या चीजें हैं, वो क्या मुहर्रिकात हैं, वो क्या उम्मीदें हैं, वो क्या ख्वाहिशात हैं, वो क्या वलवले हैं जो आपको मजबूत बनाते हैं और आपको आगे बढ़ाते हैं. अगर आप इन चीजों को समझ जाएंगे तो देन आप पूरी दुनिया को या आपकी जो दुनिया है उसको आप तस्लील कर लेते हैं. So this is very, very important for me.
Absolutely. I think you've made a very strong point over there, Niaz साहब. लेकिन मुझे बताएं कि tendency होती है to shift the negative feelings outside. But in your case, इस accident में गाड़ी आप खुद चला रहे थे. कोई ऐसा वक्त भी गुजरा जब आप अपने आप को ब्लेम करते थे उस घड़ी को, जैसे लोग आपस आमतौर पे जब पोस्ट रहे होते हैं या किसी चीज को रिकॉल करते हैं जो उनको पसंद नहीं है, तो कहते हैं जी वो वक्त खराब था, वो घड़ी खराब थी जिस वक्त हम निकले थे. आपने जब इसको प्रोसेस आप कर रहे थे, कोई ऐसा पॉइंट आया व्हेन यू ब्लेम्ड योरसेल्फ, ब्लेम्ड द टाइम, ब्लेम्ड द ओकेजन, यानी पावरलेस फील किया आपने कभी?
जी बिल्कुल आया. Initially when I was processing this, I used to contemplate for a long period of time about, जैसे मैंने आपको कहा था, 5-6 months in order to come in terms with the reality. और वो ये था कि अगर मैं ये ना करता तो ये हो जाता, अगर ये ना करता तो ये हो जाता. There were different scenarios that used to come into my mind. I would look at my life devastatedly and did not know how I will move on. I just did not have the capacity at one time to think differently. But I was very lucky to have great friends, a great family, a great ecosystem which helped me in order to deal with this particular situation. And at the end of the day, I realized that it must be I who must deal with all these challenges. And in order to deal with these challenges, I must understand and process new reality. And I must transform my thinking. जब मैंने अपनी transformation लेके आया thinking में, the second challenge was how to cope with this. I mean, वो resilience किधर से आएगी, वो कुव्वत इरादी जो है वो किधर से आएगी, वो stamina किधर से आएगा, वो for example, in my case, in order to move this arm, I got this movement about 4 years later. I had to do hundreds and thousands of times of the same amount of physio over and over again with no results. So it is important that when we decide on things, that we stick to it, that we analyze them in the right way, and that we have a total control in terms of our thought processes. And yes, even now, there comes a time when I get discouraged, when I work very, very hard and I don't see results. But this ability to understand myself, to have these dreams which are still kicking and very much alive, keeps me moving forward. तो एक जो चीज मैं आपसे कहना चाहता हूँ कि जो नो मर्जी व्हाट हैपन हो जाए कोविड-19 से, या मैं ये समझता हूँ कि आप लोग इससे बेहतरी की तरफ जाएंगे, बिकॉज ये आपको स्ट्रेच करेगी. जो मदर नेचर है ना, ये sometimes it puts us in situations where we have to think differently. We have to stretch our boundaries, our thought processes. We have to bring a new discipline to our life. And I think if you can do it, you will definitely prevail in all what you're doing.
Sticking out for me is the word discipline as you use it. And I feel that so many of us lack that. We lack consistency, we lack discipline. There's so many dreams that we have, but we just don't know where to begin. And the other thing that came to mind, some of us feel that we've been buried in the dark. I mean, सब कुछ अंधेरा है, कुछ आगे नहीं बढ़ सकता. But maybe you're being sown. I mean, think about it. जितनी फसल उगती है, जितनी खूबसूरती आप ये बेल बूटों में देखते हैं, कभी ना कभी तो ये बीज की तरह जमीन में दबाए गए थे. And nobody knew when they're going to come out. लेकिन what does not meet the eye, there is still work that is happening. But tell me something. आपसे भी कई लोगों ने ये सवाल किया होगा और हमारे साथ भी बार-बार आता है. When will things go back to normal? And why it perplexes me, Niaz Saab, is because it feels like we are desperately trying to recreate what we had in the past. We're trying to go back to the same flow of life, the same rush hours, the same madness. Do you feel that life is going to be similar to what we experienced in the past, or just like you mentioned initially, it will transform to be something very different?
You know, there is this Eastern saying, and it says that in the end, the treasures of life is missed by those who hold on and gained by those who let go. One of the most important thing is that we have to let go of the old thought processes. We have to reimagine, re-excite ourselves with the new thinking. The second important part is what will happen? How will life transform? What are the changes that are on the horizon? How long will it take? And you know what I say? It does not really matter. I tell you why I say that. Because I think that the excitement of the entire change should be good enough for us to propel forward. हम जब पुराने ज़माने में बात करते थे ना, about like 2 months ago, we used to say that innovation and the change in terms of accepting that innovation, there is this big gap. I think one of the best thing that has happened is that as humans all over the world, we have realized that we have the tools, but we have not changed ourselves enough. But we have the tools. Today, you know, you are sitting in Islamabad, here I am in Lahore, and we are talking to the global audience. And so we have the tools. So the important thing is, are we embedding these new technologies into our lives?
Yes.
So that is very important, that if you need to move on, you must let go of old thinking. For example, I'm sitting right in front of you. I'm a total paralyzed man. But thanks to this smart chair, here I am using these smart tools in order to address, having this dialogue. So that's one thing. So if you ask me, Niaz, when will you walk, for example, which is a greater uncertainty in my life. And I say it doesn't really matter as long as I'm on the right path. And the right path means that I'm doing the right things. I'm ensuring that I'm using all my capabilities and enhancing my frontiers every day. And that is very important. How will transform life? I say life will be transformed, definitely, but not to a greater extent. Jo pura ek fiasco bana hua hai iske ird-gird. There's a lot of confusion around it. And I tell you, in my personal life, there was a time when there was this Y2K bug. I don't know how many of you have heard about it. Y2K bug ये था कि 2000 की जब चेंज होगी डेट्स तो आसमान से जहाज गिरने शुरू कर जाएंगे, ट्रेनें कोलाइड करना शुरू हो जाएंगी. There was a lot of panic in the Western markets in order to change that date. And eventually, when that thing happened, nothing really surfaced. So what will happen? I am very clear, for example, that after a year and a half, the travel will come to normal. We will still be traveling on a plane. We'll still be traveling on the trains. Yes, we will have learned new things. For example, in Pakistan, nobody thought that e-commerce, will be something that will catch up with our society so fast. In a matter of a month, here we are. Every single shop in Pakistan has this e-commerce engines that are there, and people are celebrating that in terms of using it. So we will be using these technologies that we have. We will be leveraging them much better. Obviously, the financial markets will change to some extent. We are seeing that the whole system that came into being in 1945 will obviously make some changes to it, but overall, the humanity will prevail, and we will be using these technologies and leveraging these technologies more effectively. One of the things that
all those people who are listening to you right now, I want to engage with them as well, because a lot of times, because in the middle of this conversation, we are unable to take the comments that they are sending us. But of course, you can send me 100, send me 100 every time something resonates with you. बहुत सारी ऐसी चीजें होंगी जो पहले आपने सुनी होंगी, लेकिन जब उनको दोहराया जा रहा है and you're listening to them in a new light altogether, send me 100 so that I know it's resonating with you. Yes, carrying on, you're absolutely right, but what does it mean? Like, you're right, businesses will bounce back, societies will bounce back. But what does it mean for an individual person? And especially when it comes to our interpersonal skills, do you feel that this lack of contact, the social distancing, working from home, not being able to see people in reality, in right in front of us, just through a screen, how is it going to play out in our minds and the way we perceive the world?
I think the great excitement that we should have during this time is this ability to change. We have seen that the norms that we are used to can be changed at any time. And one of the most important aspects of it that we should get from this is that we need to build new capabilities. Now, this new capabilities and dealing with this complexity and creating synergetic organizations and building new skills was a theoretical thing about 2-3 months ago. But I think that wise people will understand that this is not something that is of a theory anymore, and that the things can change at any time. And are we ready for that? That is very, very important. And this is something that I want to bring to the table, is that after my accident, I had realized this about 4 years ago. And I started taking comprehensive steps in order to understand new technologies and to bring them and to evolve my life. So I hope that your life will evolve from it. The second important part is that you have to really understand that in this new complex world, how is it that you will be delivering the new value in terms of paradigm shifts? And these paradigm shifts are not just because of COVID-19. They are about to happen anyway. We were talking about robotics. The world was talking about robotics. People were talking about artificial intelligence. People were talking about new methods of living life. And ये जो कोविड-19 है, इसने हमारे ऊपर अयां कर दिया है कि ये जो सारी चीजें हैं, ये राम कहानियां नहीं थी. ये एक्चुअली वो हकीकतें हैं जिनके साथ हमने डील करना है. Yes. और जो हमारा thought process है, it must change. This thought process was also, a whole thing of the past where we thought it was a theory, and we were contemplating whether we have to change or not. And now we have realized that Mother Nature can bring about a change in no time, and that the human must change themselves. Now, because I had changed over all these years, and fundamentally my life is very, very different, I'm very hopeful that each one of you who are listening to this will look at life from a different perspective and be excited about this change and not be fearful of it, because you have all those tools. So what if we are not, meeting with each other? We are having this great dialogue. We have the same excitement, the same pleasure. We have just sorted out things in a different way in this small period of time. And when life will go back to the new normal, obviously we will bring all these excitements, all these experiences with us. And I hope that we will be a changed species to some extent.
Niasa, but if you would allow me to interject, I think we can all agree that we are kind of at a crossroads. The past is gone and the future is yet to arrive. And people are really grappling with that uncertainty. It's causing them to be anxious. They really don't know how to take a step forward. And it's causing, at a large degree, I notice that people have executive paralysis. I mean, the cost of inaction is high, yet there is so much at stake that they're unable to make decisions. What would your advice be to them?
I recall this saying of Lao Tzu. He says, "Let it be still and it will gradually become clear." This thing, it's a bit too early. And the other thing that, you talked about the past and the future and where we stand. I think that the past should be a great source of strength for us. One of this big hype that has come into being is that, the past is all gone and the life is going to be totally different. I don't believe that. I think that the past is going to be the greatest strength that you have. And that in this time of uncertainty, you must be very hopeful because of those strengths that you have accumulated over the period of time. And I'm not saying this to you. I have done it myself. You know, when I got paralyzed, life halted.
Yes.
Things were very different. And I don't want to be commercializing this thing, you know, me being paralyzed, but it is a reality. The reality is that, you know, the past was gone. But from that past, I found a greater strength to
Right.
chart a new way forward. So one thing that I will tell you, for all those who are being less hopeful or who find themselves in a dimmer zone, कि क्या होगा, कुछ भी नहीं होगा. आपने अपनी जो आस है उसको मजबूत रखना है, और आपका जो माजी है उससे आपने स्ट्रेंथ पकड़नी है, उसको भूलना नहीं है. ये जो लोग कह रहे हैं ना कि कुछ भी नहीं होगा, दुनिया बहुत मुख्तलिफ हो जाएगी, ये हो जाएगा, जी हाँ मुख्तलिफ होगी, लेकिन इतनी मुख्तलिफ नहीं होगी कि आपका जो माजी है वो किसी काबिल या कोई रोल अदा ना कर सके. दैट्स वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. फाइंड अ स्ट्रेंथ इन योर पास्ट, बट
I think
डू
that is,
अंडरस्टैंड
yes.
but do understand that the future will be somewhat different. Somewhat different, I say. It will not be the world will not transformed overnight. It will be somewhat different. And that should be a great excitement for you.
Yes.
That
I was just about to
this
say the
is,
same thing. When you don't know what is going to happen next, rather than becoming anxious about it, you must also
yes,
know that anything can happen. This is the time when all your greatest desires and dreams can be put in action. Niaz Saab, it was truly
yes.
insightful to have this conversation with you. I'm so grateful that you were able to make time for us, for our viewers, and certainly have added new depth to our perspective and understanding of the present situation. So thank you very much for making time.
Thank you, Sidra. I really, really appreciate it. And it was a fascinating dialogue. And I wish you all the success in all your endeavors, and whatever you're doing, obviously is helping transform the society. And
Means a lot
I
when it's
am
now
so
coming
pleased
to
to be
you.
part of it.
Absolutely. You've been an integral part of it. You've added more dimensions to our perspective. Once again, thank you for being here. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, this conversation of perspective comes to a close, but do let me know, what did you think about it? What resonated the most with you? Send me your feedback and your comments. And of course, like our pages, subscribe to our pages, and share this conversation with somebody who perhaps needs a dose of positivity. I'll see you next time with another conversation. Till then, take good care of yourself. Khuda Hafiz.